Welcome to another episode of that Grief Relief podcast. I'm Katie, and tonight is an evening recording.
Yes.
So Zainab and I are in my house with about 27 ring lights. But what I love is the fact that Zainab walked in and said, "Yeah, I'm used to this.
It's fine.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's
It's
okay."
fine." So this week's episode, no, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. Zainab Eqabi.
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 Yes.
I was so close.
Very close, yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good.
Yes.
Thank you so much for driving all the way out here. Did it take forever?
Yes. Yeah, it takes forever, but honestly, it's worth it. And I'm very happy to be part of your podcast.
Yay!
And excited to speak more about the journey.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a strange conversation that Zainab and I had first off the bat, because a lot of people approach me about coming onto the podcast and sharing stories. And obviously we know that there's a lot of grief not involving death and the loss of a loved one. You grieve other things. My cat Poppy is ripping up the carpet already.
Good job.
Poppy, don't rip the carpet up. So yeah, you can grieve other things other than death. So I was speaking to a mutual friend of ours, Paul, and he said, "You should reach out to my friend Zainab. She's got an amazing story to tell, and she's very open about talking about it." Now, this is where, as we've spoken about, it's really difficult to approach people sometimes, because if I know someone and I maybe know some of their story, I'll say, "Hey, like, do you fancy coming on the podcast?"
Yeah, it would be easier.
Yeah, approaching someone on Instagram and saying, "Hey, I understand you've got a story." So before delving into your story, because it's not the grief of a loved one, Zainab and I spoken, and it was a very interesting conversation, because it's very interesting that you don't grieve what has happened to you. And that in itself is just so incredible, inspirational, admirable. Like, I have so many words.
Yeah, honestly, when I received your message on Instagram, I was like, am I the right person for this podcast? And I had to listen, Katie, I don't perceive things the way maybe your podcasts are highlighting, you know? It's not the same way I look to life. And she's like, "It's okay." I'm like, "Okay, if that's okay, let's talk about the grief in a different way."
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's really important, because, as you know, as I say at the beginning of every episode, we all grieve things differently. True. And we all grieve different things differently.
Correct, yeah.
So I guess it's just tell us your story, and then we'll move on to whether you grieved, how you grieved.
Maybe, yeah. Honestly, you know, as time passes by, I more reflect to the past. Okay. And the more you mature and you have more experience in life, I think sometimes your perception to the past, to certain incidents, like, "Oh my God, how did I react on this way?"
Yeah.
You know, you're amazed. So basically, I'm Zainab Eqabi. I was born.
How very well pronounced.
No, yes, you have to know it very well. I was born in Iraq, Baghdad, in 1990. And in this year, we moved to a house where there were some workers doing construction, you know, to this house, which is normal, which is fine. And in that year also, there was a sanction was enforced on Iraq. So basically, because of the economy situation, when you find, I think also it's a habit, you know, when you find something somewhere that could be helpful for you to use later on, you would just keep it aside.
Okay. So, explain what a sanction is in case people are listening.
A sanction, it's a punishment enforced on a country, and where the economy is really restricted. Like, for example, you're not allowed to receive goods as an import or export, and, you know, just to make things harder on this country. So Iraq had to go through this. I believe it's from the US. And there was a lot of things going on with Iraq through the whole history, you know. We had a lot of war. We had a lot of things going on. So the country is from then and until now is struggling. Yeah. And I hope the sun will shine soon to my country and all of the countries that are going through a tough time. So yes, and that year also, we moved to this house and we found something. We thought we can use it, you know. We can make a use of it. It's just something kind of cylindrical where you can use to fix things, and that's it, you know.
Okay. So literally kind of anything. So it could have been, you thought it was like a tool, maybe.
Yeah, we thought it's a tool.
Okay.
One of the workers left it, and it's perfect. We can use it maybe later on when we're fixing anything, you know. And time passes by, years passes by, And in 1997,
Okay.
my dad was leaving the house with the car, and my bicycle was out there. And by mistake, he just, stepped over the handlebar of the bicycle.
Okay.
And then, like, a few days later, I'm like, Dad, I can't ride my bicycle. Please fix this for me. This is annoying. He's like, okay, come back home. And my youngest sister, also was with me. And let's fix it.
Okay.
And I got him the box where you keep all the tools.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a Nido milk box, where you keep all the tools and the hammer and, the tiny things you fix all the house with. And we got this thing out. Okay.
The thing that you'd had and kept. Right. Yeah. Okay.
And actually, like, throughout the years, people used it, while they're fixing things, but nothing happened. So we got this thing and we kept it in the handlebar, and with the friction with the hammer, it exploded.
It was a mine?
It was a bomb left over. So actually, like, this bomb felt, probably the only explanation for it is from the war of 1990. When Iraq, like, had a few days, as in the U.S. bombing, probably, with the Gulf War and so on. And it never exploded. Like, it didn't have the right ignition by then.
Mm-hmm.
And we gave it the right friction with the hammer.
Oh, my God. Okay, so hang on. So you were 7?
Yes, I was almost 7. Like,
almost 7. Your sister was with you?
That was in June 1997. Actually, a few days, like, 2
like
more
an
days
anniversary.
for the anniversary.
And how old was your sister? She was with you?
She was with me, my youngest sister, and my dad.
Okay, so what on earth happened next? Do you remember it?
Of course, I still do remember, a few moments, like waking up, seeing the neighbors, coming around, screaming, shouting. I can remember, like, there was our neighbor's maid. She's used, like, we don't call her maid, like, she's part of their family, I would say. But she's the one working in their house. And I remember she was, like, very close to me, and she was screaming, like, hey, Zainab, open your eyes. But then the next thing that I can remember, that my dad was behind me in the car, laying in the back seat, they put him down there. Yeah. And I just, woke up because our neighbor was driving the car, and he was shouting on the people who are crossing the road, like, fast, there is an accident.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I remember, we're in the hospital. And, as a child, I was very silly. I'm like, Mom, what happened? It must have been, like, my vision for, like, oh, what happened? Because in the school, sometimes, when they celebrate things, they might hit with a gun.
Right.
So I
in Iraq.
Yeah, in Iraq, when there is an occasion.
Yeah, I know that.
I think this happens also in other countries when there is an occasion.
In the Middle East.
Might hit, yeah. And I thought, with my innocent child, way of thinking, I thought, oh, this must have been one of the bullets that felt in the school, and maybe one of us got it home and it's exploded.
Yeah. Which sounds, so just to explain, because there are people that are listening that aren't from the Middle East, don't know Middle East countries. I mean, that sounds perhaps a little crazy, but it's a big celebration thing with the shooting of the guns.
Which is incorrect. Like, throughout the years, people try to change this habit because so many people could get killed. But anyway, it was not a bullet, of course. No. It was an actual bomb that exploded. It wasn't easy. Like, the whole garden, we lived in a house where we had a big garden. It was filled with blood. We were sitting on the swing. We came back home after the accident, and the whole thing were just, like, smashed, by the explosion.
Did anybody die?
Nobody died.
Okay.
I don't know how we survived, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
Especially my dad, because he was the one holding it. My dad lost his hand right away.
Okay.
It was actually smashed.
Okay.
Like, you can't even find it. And the bomb, of course, exploded a lot in his body. Luckily, nothing to his face.
Wow.
I had things here.
Okay.
So
so you have still
I have a
scars.
surgery. Yeah. So basically, like, it was torn, the nerves. So these fingers weren't functional. And I had to go through another surgery. And luckily, the surgeon was so good, and he was able to connect the nerves. Wow. And then with physiotherapy, then the sensation was back.
Wow.
So that was, like, my lucky doctor, my charming doctor, I would say. So I would get out of this with least possible, losses. My leg, and then, was hurt with the explosion.
Okay.
But not to the limit of amputation.
Okay.
There were things in it, of course, because of the explosion.
Like shrapnel things.
Yeah,
like this?
you know, when a bomb explodes, things comes inside your body, metals. And it was badly damaged. So in the second hospital, the doctor kept a cast.
Okay.
And that was a wrong timing.
Right.
And then gangrene developed. And then the third hospital, because we had to keep on shifting in hospitals, depending on which hospital can provide us with the better services. Especially my dad was in the ICU for the whole period. So we kept on moving with him, you know. My mom was basically running in between, like me, my youngest sister, my dad. Like, for sure, luckily we have the family, like the extended family.
Yeah.
And in 1997, it was not a period of war.
Okay.
So when this explosion happened, it was something that is of a hit in the neighborhood. Like, what happened in that house, you know? And everyone was running to the hospital, and it was a crazy time, you know? So in the third hospital, they discovered the gangrene.
Yeah.
But it was too late to reverse it. And they had to actually, like as my mom told me, it was not like very close to the knee, but then they decided to cut above knee.
Above the knee.
Yeah, amputate above knee.
And why? Do you know why?
Because you can't. The gangrene means that there is no oxygen for the
Fine.
legs.
So
this organ is dying, actually.
Yeah.
So they tried to reverse the effect, but it's not working. So it turns actually into purple and blue day by day. And the more you're late in amputating that part, the more it goes up. Yeah. So you don't have actually a solution. Like, if it keeps on going up, that's it. You could die.
Yeah.
So my mom and my uncles had to take this decision. Like, my dad had no idea at all.
Of course.
Yeah. It was very tragic because I also remember when they were like immediately like, oh, you have a surgery, you know? And I remember that because I remember also waking up in between, you know, sometimes you wake up in the surgery, and I just felt that there's something happening. Though I was too young, you know, almost 7 years old. And then when I woke up, my uncle was there and my mom, of course. I'm like, what happened? And they're like...
So, sorry, they hadn't told you what was happening.
No.
They just said a surgery was happening. Right, okay.
Because it's something that you're not going to ask for my opinion. And
no,
I'm just a child. And this is something so urgent.
Yeah.
And for my mom, it was very hard for her to take this decision. She asked for my uncle's support in this decision. And it was not easy for them also to sign the papers, you know, because my dad wasn't there and he was in critical situation. And it's crazy, like, to wake up to your daughter who's 7 years old without a leg, you know. And she definitely needed their support as well in saying yes, because you know, you could be blamed for this, you could be, you know, it's not easy to sign.
Was there anything from a cultural perspective with her being a woman? Was she able to make a decision?
She was able, but it would have been tough for her maybe when he wakes up because of, you know, reaction like, why did you do this?
Of course.
So it's also hospitals, I would say, as a habit, they usually ask for more than one person's approval.
Right, hence your uncle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not only one person, because this is a big decision and the child is involved. So more than one person has to sign the paper. And they had no choice, basically. Like, this surgery had to be done. So yeah, when I woke up, I remember I hated one of my uncles because he forced me to eat.
Oh no, do you remember what it was?
I remember it was boiled eggs.
Oh no, how funny that will stick in your mind.
Yes, and I was not happy to speak to him for like weeks. I'm like, I didn't want this, I didn't expect this, and I didn't accept it. Like, how did you guys dare to?
Yeah.
I don't know how I remember these details, and I don't know how I was able to understand it, you know, until now.
Yeah.
Of course, the moment of truth was when the nurses come in and they wanted to change the stitches, you know. Like, that's it. You need to know about it.
Yeah. So was that the first time you saw it?
Yeah.
And what was your reaction?
As a child, I was just like, you know, I wasn't an easy child in my life. I was always that kind of person.
I knew
like,
we were going to be best friends.
Take my approval. You're not allowed to do this. I have this attitude, and I'm too stubborn, and I'm that kind of strong personality with an attitude. So that attitude was there. And
Right.
that's why I was not happy with my uncle as a statement. Like, you weren't, it's not your authority to force me to eat. Like, I decided not to eat
That's
as
so funny.
a kind of rejection for what you guys have done.
Mm.
I wasn't mad at mom, because maybe she's my mom, and like she's the one who's going through a lot of this, to handle. Luckily, she's a doctor.
Okay.
But of course, like, this is something I really respect. She had to sacrifice her job, everything after the accident. Like, she retired and she stopped working.
Really?
And it was not easy for her, of course, to handle all of this. But nevertheless, being a doctor, what enabled her, to understand, okay, something wrong happened. I need to act quickly. I need to, focus with this and that and follow up with everything. It was such a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. So how long was your dad in ICU for?
I couldn't see my dad until we moved to the, I think, last hospital.
You moved again?
Yeah, we've been through
In
4
the fourth.
hospitals. And I remember they kept a towel instead of my leg. And they told me that, listen, your dad is tired.
Oh, no,
And
they hadn't told him, had they?
He's not, he's just recovering.
Uh-huh.
He wants to see you, like me and my sister, but please don't move. Like, I understood this is something like big and serious, and I had to react. And I remember when he met us, he tried to check, like when he's hugging us, he tried to check, are we really okay, and
Tapping you down.
it was a big slap on his face when he knew that I lost my leg. Yeah. And I can tell you, until this date, my dad is never like accepting to speak about the accidents.
Interesting.
At all. Like, no matter what I ask, he's just like, listen, that's it. This day is over. Don't speak about it.
So how does he feel about how open you are? Because regardless of this podcast, you speak very openly about it, don't you?
Actually, at the beginning of my journey, especially on social media, when I started to write the accident publicly, and when I took also the decision of exposing my leg, that's another journey.
Yeah.
It was not easy for him to accept it.
Okay.
And on purpose, I invited him to 1 or 2 talks, and I pointed at him during my talk. I'm like, my dad also lost his hand. And for him, like, even if he's seeing this podcast, he never comment on this part, he's just like, you don't stop. But for me, like, I always wants to remind him, like, if you're ever feeling guilty for any kind of reason, like, this thing is over. Okay. This is number 1. Number 2, this thing had taught me a lot. And throughout my life, like growing up from being a child, a teenager, and moving on, like, he's been always that kind of father who's trying to be super protective for me. Because here in the Middle East, unfortunately, we are so lacking awareness, and we don't know how to deal with people with disabilities, no matter what they are.
No.
Even like mental health issues, we are just having this kind of stigma, I would say.
Yeah, still.
It's even worse if you are a female. So during his whole life, I remember that when I'm studying, he's like, listen, I want you to grow up and be completely independent, to a limit that you don't need any one of your family members. Like, you're that independent. I want to pass away and I'm relieved that my daughter can take care of her. I don't want like anyone to treat you in a bad way, because he grew up seeing people with disability in his neighborhood being mistreated.
Yeah.
And for him, that was a disaster, coming back home with a daughter who has lost her leg.
Yeah.
I love him so much, and I'm so proud of him, honestly.
Of course.
And it's also very emotional for me whenever I speak about him. He's such a hero, and he's such a role model to me. Like, he's been through a lot, mentally, health-wise, economically, financially. Like, he's been through a lot just to make us where we are now.
I was going to say, to even leave Iraq and then come here 2001, you were saying.
And he was badly affected by the US invasion in 2003, because like his whole business in Iraq was completely down. And we had to survive here for years in the UAE for children studying in schools. And for him, education is a must. So he had to really sacrifice a lot to make sure that we're all educated, we're all with, you know, the certificate that we want, and to be independent. Yeah.
Your sister, very briefly, sorry, was she injured at all?
Yes, my sister, of course, she was injured. She lost a bit of her finger. Okay, and she had a stiff knee, and she needed like a good physiotherapy to be able to bend the knee.
Right.
And also she was badly injured from her thigh. Okay. So she needed multiple like cosmetic surgeries to fill in this gap, and to be able, like, because it was a burned scar. Yeah. It was badly burned, so they needed like to on multiple surgeries to bring it close together on various stages. Right. Yeah.
Skin graft from different parts of her body and such.
Mentally, it was too exhausting for her.
Yeah, because she was young.
She was young, and also some of the surgeries she couldn't do it before 18.
Oh, how come?
Because the grafts might keep on changing the older you get. So it could be like stretched, or like, you know, it could cause a failure. Yeah. So some of the surgeries, she actually did it when she was almost 20. That's tough. And that's tough, yeah. It was exhausting for her.
Especially when you're trying to, you know, in those kind of formative years, being, again, touching on the culture aspect, but being a teenager anyway, being a teenager from a Middle Eastern country in a new country, and then going through that. Yeah.
And for her, it was important to find something for this area. Like she always wanted to make sure that it's really done, because she cared for it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. She cared for it.
Yeah. Moving on then, after this all happened, what can't think of the right words. What is the correct word for, did you have then what's the word? Prosthetic leg is the word I'm thinking of. What was then the stage of kind of that recovery?
First of all, when I went back home, I was introduced to something called a crutch. So for me to understand what a crutch is was, you know, hectic, and it was depressing, and I was not happy to use it. I was preferring to jump all the time. I would be the monkey running everywhere, like jumping, but don't tell me a crutch. I definitely believe this is because of something that I used to watch on TV. Sometimes on TV they would put a commercial to encourage people to take a vaccine, otherwise it would cause you polio.
Don't talk about vaccines.
Yeah.
We can't get political. Okay, so that was on TV when you were a kid.
So I used to see this like commercial, like it's supposed to encourage people to take like the children, like go get the polio vaccine. Otherwise, like it could cause you some things with your leg, and to use crutches. So for me, this was like, oh my God, I'm gonna use crutches. So I'm like, these people, and not like, oh, I'm like insulting. No, it's the way the commercial was done. It was just showing that, oh, polio people means it's weakness, and it's, you know, it's just like disrespectful commercial that would give me as a child this impression. So of course, like nowadays, I really hate such commercials that's done this way. So I rejected to use the crutches for this reason. And then another uncle, this is my sweetheart uncle. Okay. He actually told me, like, listen, I was fighting with my youngest sister, Wasan. And he's like, are you mad at her? I'm like, yes. I'm like, are you able to catch her? I'm like, no, she's running too fast. And I was so mad. He's like, listen, use these, and you can run fast with the crutches, and then you can hit her with a crutch.
Okay, great parenting, uncle. Okay.
And it actually worked.
Really?
Yes. Because I'm like, wow. And I tried it, and it was easy because the crutch is longer than you, so you can easily hit a person.
This poor girl has gone through a bomb explosion, and now she's got her big sister hitting her with a crutch.
Yeah, exactly.
Goodness me. Right, okay.
And actually, when I was back to school, I got back first with a crutch.
Okay.
So I wasn't having a prosthesis right away. And the crutch made me able to socialize with the kids through hitting them.
Oh my goodness, Zainab, that is hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
I can't even work
until
out.
my teacher, she was like always after me. She's like, please don't hit them. Please, it's painful. Don't do this. I'm like, we were playing, for example, like a police and a thief, and you run after them, and I would hit them
Yeah.
like as a source of fun.
Of course, sure.
But then, of course, I behaved. And my teacher, she had a very positive influence on me. I was in grade 2 by then.
Okay.
And I remember her name, like we call her Sit as in teacher, Sit Ulfat. Like I can't forget her name.
Yeah.
And she was very supportive. She was always caring, making sure that I'm having friends, surrounded by friends, interactive with them when there's an activity. She really took care of me.
That's amazing.
It was not an inclusive school or any special school. It was the same school I used to go to. And they were told like about the condition I had before. So they were prepared to welcome me back. And the prosthesis, it was not easy.
No.
Because they told me I'm going to have a Barbie leg.
Right. I guess I can understand that. Because I guess that's the only thing you can maybe relate to.
Yes.
A plastic leg.
Yeah, they told me I'm going to have a Barbie leg. And I was actually very excited. And I was like, wow, I can sleep the night. And like I'm visualizing Barbie. And next day, it was not.
Yeah.
And I was crying.
Yeah.
And I was slapping the doctor on his face.
And why? What was it then that when you went for the fitting, I guess?
In the process of fitting, there is something called casting. So they have to measure your leg. They have to put also some other things to make the exact fitting. So this was very invasive for me. Like, why are you touching my leg? Why are you taking measurements? What is this material you're putting and wrapping over my leg? And I have to stand for a while just to make sure that you get the right, sizes. So it was very difficult for me to understand all of this.
How old were you at this point?
7.
7. Okay.
It was months after. I didn't use the leg before like the summer, but I started with the process like after a few months. So it was not easy for me mentally. And my mom would always calm me down. She's like, it's okay, you're stronger. And she would just keep on reminding me like, it's okay, God loves you. God knows you're very strong. You can take it. And that sound and these sentences and the fact that she's always looking into my eyes and, hugging me and like, it gave me strength. And I somehow realized, that I need to mature before my age, I can say.
Right.
I needed to be stronger sometimes for them rather than for me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. I had to understand that, accept it, adapt to it, and then figure my way to love it. You have to go through all of these stages.
That's a big changing point in your life mentally at the age of 7.
Yeah, that's correct. Well. Yeah, it wasn't easy. So the first prosthesis, it was horrible. It was very heavy. And because of the sanction on Iraq, we were having limited options.
Of course.
Yeah. So even the prosthesis that I had, it was not ideally perfect for children. And then my family knew, there are companies for prostheses, and there is a company called Ottobock in Germany.
Okay.
And they are the number 1 for prosthetic things, whether it's for arms, legs, anything related to that, they're the expert. And I had my uncle there.
The good one or the one you didn't, the boiled egg
No,
one?
I have a lot of uncles.
Okay, right, okay.
This is my uncle from my dad's side.
Okay.
The other 2 uncles are from my mom's side.
Right, so this is uncle number 3 already.
Yeah.
Keep up.
Keep up. Yes, there are many more.
Okay.
So he was actually in Germany as a refugee.
Oh, wow.
Because he also traveled Iraq. He left Iraq all the way to Germany because he had a disabled child who was in a critical situation in need for so many surgeries. So he left and he traveled all the way to reach Germany for her. And now they're all Germans, like that's it. And his daughter wouldn't have been alive without the German healthcare until now. So he knew, and he was so brokenhearted. And he managed to get for me a knee and a foot.
Okay.
And he sent it all the way to Jordan. And it was not easy at that time.
Yeah.
And then from Jordan all the way to Iraq to have my good prosthetic leg.
Wow. How did it, excuse me, how did it get to you from Jordan?
Like there has to be someone who would pick it up by car, 24 hour
drive
driving.
it through.
Yes. Yeah, 24-hour driving.
And was it, forgive me, it's naivety, but was that like an illegal thing they tried to bring it through?
It's illegal, but it's costly. So my
Right.
dad actually, like, he didn't care. He's like, I would do whatever it takes just to make sure that she's walking.
So hang on, you got a knee and a foot. So how did you connect it?
With a doctor in Iraq, like a specialist. It's called CPO.
Okay.
Yeah, prosthetic and orthotic specialist.
Right.
Yeah, so he's the one who I was slapping, but then I met another doctor in another clinic, and this person, I would call him like my dad.
Okay.
Because he's been there through when my childhood in Iraq. He was a great supporter for me, and he would treat me like his daughter. And he would bring his daughter, who was like close to my age, to the clinic so she can play with me until he finished the work.
Oh, nice.
And he would give me chocolate, and he was so loving that I wouldn't feel any kind of pain or difficulty when I'm learning.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, walk with Isra, his daughter. So I would learn how to walk.
Okay.
So it was a very good environment for me, like, to understand, okay, I need this leg now.
Yeah.
And going back to school, I needed, of course, some time to figure out my way with the children and with the limitations that a prosthesis bring to your life as well. Because you can't run, for example. You can't go into the water with it. There are so many limitations, and as a child, I want that.
Yeah.
So I had to always figure out a way to do it, whether it's with or without, or to accept the fact that I'm simply out.
And did you ever, because you seem the type, did you ever rebel and be like, no, you're not allowed to go in the water.
Yes.
I'm going in.
I did it once, like years later, but then I lost the function of the knee, and it took them a lot of time to fix it.
Right.
So I learned my lesson, like, Zainab, behave.
And was it a case that you regretted it because then your knee didn't work, or did you really understand how hard it had taken to get that knee even here? So you appreciated it, or was it?
Regret wasn't there, but
Okay.
it was like, I would say it's a tough lesson to learn, because everything is expensive, and I didn't realize how my parents were putting an effort into providing me everything until I became an adult, and I had to pay for my first prosthesis completely by myself.
No.
Yes.
Do I dare ask how much that kind of is?
It's not cheap, so it depends on the thing that you are looking forward. But there are, there are different options. I would say there are different companies. But the one time that, like in the past, I also would have asked for the support of the organizations. Sometimes they would help because it's a lot of effort, But one time I paid a bill of around 16 to 18,000 dirham for just like
16 to 18,000 dirhams. So what's that? Go backwards for
the UK. It was
dollars?
like around
US dollars.
It's around $4,000 to $5,000.
So rubbish with the whole, and
okay.
It shouldn't be, because it's 3.65, 3.67. But as soon as I start to work it out, I'm like,
you can switch it to 4 point something for euros. Yeah.
Maths is not.
But that was
strong
only one component.
Yeah, wow.
I was switching for, and it was offer. The kind of component that's called or considered affordable by the public. It's good. It's very good. I don't want to like underestimate these qualities, because that's also a wrong concept.
Of course, yeah.
It's not always about only high tech, but these are very functional and very helpful as well. Yeah.
Was there any point then? So moving forward, you've had how do I refer to it? Prosthetic? No, prosthesis?
Yes, you can say prosthetic leg or prosthesis. Yeah,
leg.
Yeah,
okay,
it's okay.
Yeah, I'm cash. I'm totally cash about it.
Yeah, you can say that.
It's so funny, isn't it, when you just want to be politically correct at all times, and you can't offend anybody. But
go ahead.
I'm going to offend you in my own home. What I was going to ask was, so you have your leg, you've got your new leg, you're back at school, everything's wonderful, you're obviously growing up, and you're now this beautiful young woman that you are now, independent. Was there ever a time that you were, you were really sad about this situation?
I don't think I felt sad because I lost my leg, but I would sometimes feel mad a bit on the society.
Okay.
When like I'm being underestimated, or like I lose an opportunity because they think I'm not good enough.
Interesting.
So that's what makes me like mad. Or like I would see, for example, clapping for me or someone else who, when we're doing very tiny thing, which is very simple, that's not worth to clap for.
Do you find like patronizing almost?
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, like what did I do? Like seriously, just because I'm a user of a prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
So I don't need really that kind of clapping, and it's just something normal I did. But the society makes a big deal sometimes, which is offensive, actually, not something to be happy about.
Yeah.
That's why I feel sometimes mad on the society, which is also a reminder for me that I'm happy I'm doing the awareness that I am able to do through my social media. It's a reminder that I need to do more. Growing up not having a role model for me in the Middle East was frustrating.
Yeah, I was going to ask that exact thing.
Was frustrating. It was like, why there are not role models around me? When I was a teenager, why I didn't find someone, not necessarily the prosthetic leg, but someone who's been through like a very tough experience. Why it's not there in the public? Because I need to look at you.
Yeah.
I need to learn from you. You know, to not feel maybe I'm alone. Luckily, I was somehow with strong mentality.
Yeah.
But maybe if I wasn't,
absolutely,
that's a disaster. And that's why I appreciate your podcast, honestly. Because by sharing our stories, our journeys, we empower each other. Yeah. And it's a big statement of you're not alone. Plus, people who don't appreciate your journey would learn, oh, I was wrong about that.
Yes. Okay, so it's education as well.
Of course.
At what point then did you decide you're going to be your own role? At what point did you decide, maybe I'll edit that out. At what point did you decide that you were going to be not only your own role model, but potentially role model for others?
I didn't actually decide that. I think it came spontaneously when I started sharing things on social media because I wanted to spread awareness as much as I can and like change mentalities, negative perceptions, create opportunities. That's my objective. And then by days, I realized like some people would see me and hug me like, oh, you're my role model. I'm like, wow, this is a big statement. I hope I deserve it, you know? This is something big whenever I hear it, and which makes a really big responsibility on me. But I was very happy about it because whenever I see especially someone younger than me, I'm like, wow, I'm very happy because in that age, I needed someone to be there for me.
Yeah.
I had to do a lot of research when I grew up, like especially when I got into college and the internet was more into, you know, ability to search. I had to search for so many people in the Western countries.
Right.
To understand like, wow, I can run.
Yeah.
There's a prosthetic leg for running. Amazing. I had no idea. Wow, I can wear a high heel. But because I didn't see anyone.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any story anywhere that says I can do that. I was wearing a Converse or a very flat sporty shoe through my whole life. Until like year 2 university, I learned I can wear a flat shoe, just like a simple flat shoe.
No way.
That was like, wow, life changing. And I immediately went shopping and I bought, I think, 20 shoes.
And did you buy heels? Did you ever do
when
the heels?
I got the high heel foot recently? Brilliant. It was, you know, so emotional for me also. No, I'm not using it on daily basis, which is fine. Yeah. It's not convenient to wear a high heel on daily basis. But the experience and the ability to have that choice existing in your life is massive. Yeah. And for me, when I shared the video of wearing a high heel on YouTube, it got 1 million views without like massive efforts. No way. And the impressions of that video is 11 million.
No way.
So imagine, what does this number reflect? Lack of knowledge in the society. Yeah. And they were very happy to see that, oh, this thing exists and how it affects the person's mentality and how you as a person, if you're able to wear a high heel on daily basis, think of the blessings also you have. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And as you say, I think this is where social media is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Yes, we know it's tough. I was speaking only today that I'm so glad I didn't have social media when I was a teenager, you know, drinking at very young age in the UK in a bandstand or something. But what an amazing positive message coming through social media. Can you tell me an example of, I'm sure you have many, but of
DMs that you must get from people?
It differs depending on what I'm sharing at the moment, I would say. So, for example, if I'm sharing something related to being independent or someone who's traveling alone. I lived in the UK, by the way, for 1 year.
Oh, really? Whereabouts?
In Durham.
In Durham?
Yes, I was doing my master's over there.
We won't comment on that.
Really? Come on,
Well,
I love it.
I'm from the south. So.
Okay. Issues.
Wow, you did your master's.
Yes.
Wow.
So during that period, actually, I would get a lot of messages like, wow, you made us much stronger to travel abroad by ourselves to a new country where we have literally no one.
And is that
And
both...
beside that, or you're with a prosthetic, like more challenges.
That's what I was going to say. Is that both from Middle Eastern women or people that have prosthesis?
Everyone.
Just in full stop.
And I love the fact that when you share, for example, when you see me the first time, you will notice my prosthesis.
Yeah.
The second time, you might notice. The third time, you will stop noticing anymore.
No.
And this is it's something that I believe everyone should follow. If you're having a prosthesis, something, a scar on your hands, the more you show it to people, the more they will stop seeing it. The more inclusive it is for the society. The more they're going to give you equal opportunities because they stop seeing that and they will treat you for who you are.
Absolutely.
And this is something that I've seen it in my life, in my career as a medical rep. I was visiting hospitals, clinics on a daily basis. And everywhere, like, people would simply stop considering me an amputee, and that's the goal. That's the goal for equality. And also in this case, you're raising awareness about your needs. They will get it, they will understand it, and they will pass this forward. Yes.
Because I was going to ask you, actually, because you're sitting here now in jeans but with your leg on show, as it were. Now, again, this is one of the reasons that I do the podcast, is that, so if I meet you in a coffee shop for the first time, of course I'm going to notice it. Well, not necessarily, but I've noticed it. The natural human reaction is to be like, I want to ask her. I want to ask her, how did it happen? Everything we're talking about today. Has that ever happened? Or do people do just ask you straight out?
Yeah, just come and ask.
And is that, I know you're just one person, you're not representing an entire community, for want of a better word, but is that okay?
It depends on the way you're asking, I would say. Okay. And some people would accept to be asked, and some of them they don't.
Of course.
But honestly, I would encourage the people whom are rejecting to share, like, at least a glimpse, because I would expect you, if you're showing it, maybe like you're happy to share some knowledge, at least behind the technology or something, because people are curious. And by that, you're actually changing mentalities. So this is very important. I respect that some people don't want to share. And also it depends on the way you're asking. So some people, they really are zero with the attitude of asking. No. So I might get frustrated. I'm just going to say accident, and that's it.
Yeah, right.
But when they're asking nicely, I would explain a lot, because actually that is my purpose of also, like, showing my leg. I have a lot of reasons, like, but this is a fundamental reason, which is awareness.
Yeah, because I guess if you didn't want to talk about it, you wouldn't show it.
Yeah,
you know that some people
would avoid.
Ask.
This reminds me of an incident, like, comparable. One time, I stopped seeing people's reaction, like, long time ago. I don't even see it, honestly.
No way.
And I have my friends sometimes when they're joining me out, they're like, Zainab, you don't, like, do you see how they look at you? You don't see it? I'm like, who?
They get protective for you.
Yeah, I'm like, zero. I don't really see it. Like, I swear I don't see it anymore. That's like, at all. And children's reaction is always so nice to me because I want to tell them, this is like the cutest part for me.
And that's natural.
Yes.
It's not edited. Yeah. They're just
and they are the next leaders. So if you give them the right information, that's it. So one time I loved this lady, like, so much respect for her. I was in the UK in a supermarket. I think it was Tesco. And
other supermarkets are available.
Yeah.
But if Tesco would like to sponsor that
briefly
podcast, that would be...
She deserve it.
Sorry, you're in Tesco.
So I was there shopping, and suddenly she approaches me. She had 2 children. She's like, listen, I can see probably you're okay with the questions, and my children are asking me. I don't want to answer for you. If you don't mind, answer their questions.
Amazing.
I want them to listen to you. And they asked,
No
like,
way.
what is this? Can we touch it? How do you walk? And you know, these questions, and like, actually, they're more creative than adults in asking.
Yeah, can
And
I
I
touch
respect-
it? No
yeah.
adult would ever say that.
Yeah, they would like be more
Yeah.
like no. Yeah.
But for a child to
Children,
say
yeah,
it, that's
yeah.
such a natural thing to say.
And I respected the approach. I'm like, wow, if all moms would approach me or someone else, whatever condition they're going through, in a similar way, you would teach your children it's okay to ask, and many other things.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's quite amazing what you're doing. And again, I don't want to stress on it too much, but I think it's very important because of the Middle East.
Yeah.
I actually did a project here, 2009, 2010 with the Special Olympics. That was really upsetting for me because there was a lot of children from Iraq, a lot from Saudi, whose families had just sent their children away. Sent them to the UAE, and they were being cared for here in different homes and by different organizations and societies. And I genuinely couldn't understand it. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, they will not address it. They're ashamed. It's almost like it's just a not recognized member of their family.
It is heartbreaking. Of course, like not everyone is like that, but there is a percentage like of people who are treating like their children this way.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was going for a clinic here to check my prosthesis, and I had an appointment. I'm like, I actually just called my CPO. I'm like, hey, I'm coming. I need this urgent. He's just like, come. And I came, and I was like the usual, like laughing and calling on the phone, like so chill. I'm like, hey, how are you? He's like, I'm so happy that you came now. I'm like, what is it? He's like, come, I will explain to you later. And then he told me, like, I'm happy you came from this entrance because there is a woman sitting and who asked us to open the door from behind so her child would not come from the front. Everyone would see him.
Because he
was having an amputation.
No way.
And for him, like, he was not happy with this request because this is so destructive for the child more than just being protection.
And you've walked in with your leg on show.
Yeah. He's like, I'm so happy because I wanted her to see, like, this is not the end of the world. And you can just simply live happily ever after with who you are. So I still, can't find my right words, but I hope the mentality would change. Like, I can't compare the awareness now compared to 10 years ago. It's much better right now. However, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that part of your story, because now I want to move on to the dreaded word of grief.
Yes, please.
Which apparently doesn't exist in your vocabulary, and that's not great for my podcast.
It could be there, Actually, yeah, it's a good way to reflect for me, too.
Yeah, true. I mean, if this is counselling, I do charge 750 dirhams
I'm good.
for the hour. But yeah, like literally going back to our conversation, I was thinking kind of in my mind, at nearly 7, of course, you're old enough to remember your life with both legs. And is that something you grieved? Is it something you thought about? But you don't seem to have that kind of outlook.
I think life was too busy and there was so much things going on for me to be able to grieve at that time, honestly. I believe the only option I had is just to be strong. It was too much. I mean, my sister and my dad and my mom was taking care of all of us.
Yeah.
Plus, I had my eldest sister and my brother, and they had to witness all of that, So it was too much going on in the family. Like, my dad had a very long rehabilitation before he was able to stand to get back to his life, So it was not just simply coming back home to happy life and that's it, we're back, let's find what we should do. It wasn't easy, and I needed to be stronger and not to grieve because my mom was just running all over the place, even if we were having cousins helping us, and so it wasn't enough. And year 4 school, I had an accident with my leg. Like, I was standing in the line in the morning and singing da da da, and then my leg broke.
Your prosthetic leg?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, broke out of a sudden. So I had to run from that spot to the principal's office on one leg. and I was dramatically crying, like really falling apart. And we had no cell phones, and they had to reach out for my mom, miracle, to come. And it was really like that day is like I can remember very well. So I was really brokenhearted. Like, what happened? And like my doctor disappointed me. Like, what happened to the leg? And I was so mad, like, why this happened, and on the overall, accident. And it was just too emotional day. And throughout my life, I didn't see my mom cry a lot. And on that day, she cried.
Really?
She cried and she hugged me. She's like, it's okay. Things happen. We need to be strong. So I remember, her tears. And for me, like, to see her crying means, oh, there's something big happening. And I had to just like suck all the pain all over again. And, to come back to school like the day after, fixing my leg during like the evening, and then come back to school and tell the people like, oh, I'm a superwoman. I can just come back with 2 legs. So I would definitely say I didn't have the proper time to grieve.
I was going to say, did you, obviously you cried then, but was there ever a time, you were sad and you cried on your own, for example? Because by the sounds of it, it's almost as if you needed to hide it from your family.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But I just felt that there was always the need for me to be strong. Yeah. As I told you, if I ever cried, it would be me mad at people because they're just like, putting me out of whatever opportunity or something that I had to. Like, I wanted to be part of. So it's like, why you're trying to make me feel guilty for something that is not really my choice,
Yeah, of course, yeah. I wouldn't want to go up against you. Yeah. I wouldn't want to meet your wrath of you going, hang on, why can't I do this and she's good at it?
Yes. Yeah.
What about then talking about your dad? Hopefully he's not going to watch this episode.
Yes.
But your dad did go through a horrendous time, not only obviously with himself physically and his pain, but, the head of the family being debilitated for such a long time. What was the effect that had on your family?
It wasn't easy. Like, my dad is a tough man. And he's so Middle Eastern, and he's so Iraqi. And Iraqis are known with their high temper,
Okay.
So we would always try to behave and be nice and be kind and listen to dad properly. If he said no, it's a no. Don't cross the limits. And so during my childhood and my teenage, like, I would always remember, like, we just have to be, like, very cautious with dad. And his like, the way he's feeling was all very well affected by the war that happened in Iraq in 2003 because he lost most of his business.
Right, okay.
And, that's kept a lot of pressure for him to make this family survive, plus my own needs that kept on going here and there. Like, I needed a prosthesis every few years, if not like a year. I need to change the foot, I need to change the knee, I'm growing, I'm becoming taller, and my needs are changing the older I get. So it was too much. And I would say my dad grieved a lot, and maybe until today. But what makes me really sad sometimes, like, he doesn't share that.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
healthy.
It's not healthy, but it's certainly not unusual. As you know from life, but a lot of the podcast episodes is, even Western culture men, they don't cry and they keep it inside. And so again, I can only imagine from my 13 years in the Middle East of how that then is so magnified with the Middle Eastern male, father, husband, etc., etc. Which is why I'm hoping he's not going to listen to this episode.
I hope so.
If not, can I just come round for dinner?
Yeah, you're most welcome.
Yeah,
yes,
that would be great.
Yes, he'll be happy with that.
Can I hug him?
Yeah, I think he'll be fine.
Okay,
he will be very shy. He's not that kind of person. He's like, okay, she's Western, that's why.
God, she's loud,
Yeah.
she's tall. Zainab, don't bring these weird people around my house anymore.
He will definitely okay.
What's the... Sorry, I told you, didn't I? I've got all of these questions that come in my head.
Please, yeah.
Are you ever in pain? Does it ever hurt?
With the leg.
Anything?
Yeah, of course. I have my bad days.
Okay.
Yeah. I have some injuries, sometimes something that I want to do and then it doesn't work. Sometimes I recently actually started to sometimes try to visualize myself if I had two legs, would I be interested in those activities?
Okay.
Or just because maybe it's tempting to me and there are some challenges in it which makes me able to discover more about who I am. So I'm so attracted to all these activities.
Right.
It's not easy. And the stage that makes me, I would say, up and down the most is when I'm going for a fitting, which is the sockets. Because you need to keep on finding a socket that makes you comfortable while walking. And sometimes it just doesn't work. You take a lot of time. And I was just in Germany, March, April, to do a new leg. And this leg is just new.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And the socket took me more than a month and a half to figure out.
Wow.
So this stage was really playing with me emotionally. Some days you would find me, okay, I'm happy and I'm strong. And some days I'm just so sad. It's I'm so frustrated. I'm really no matter how humans are good, nothing is what God has created, you know, to walk pain-free, injuries-free, 100%, you know, to walk limitless kilometers. I have the energy to walk 20 kilometers, but this thing is limiting me or holding me back sometimes.
Yeah.
So that process and that timeline is the time where it plays with me, you know.
And how do you get through that?
I have to.
Yeah, but how? How, you know, I know that you have to, and I know because obviously you get strength from some crazy places.
Yes, yeah.
And you harness it and you're do you know what? I have to do this. But how do you think you do
it's very challenging. I love driving, and especially in Germany, the nature is there. So I was renting a car, which was actually a kind of therapy for me.
Nice.
Because I would just take the car and drive in the nature and just take a time out, zoom out, buy something nice food and just, relax until the next day is there.
Okay.
Until the next fitting is there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's either so good or then you're back also to stage 0. Or why this person is not understanding when I'm saying I feel a pain somewhere. You should know what is somewhere.
Yeah.
So it is a frustrating process until it's done. You feel I need a vacation, you know.
Yeah.
I need to recharge. Yeah, it's been exhausting.
Do you stay, or did you stay in Germany a little while longer after you had the perfect fitting?
No,
so you
I
could
had to fly back. And it was more than enough because of the lockdown and the restrictions in the country. So it wasn't so much fun to stay longer because everything was kind of closed, which was more depressing. To have that with this process, it was energy draining, to leave and then nowhere to go except outdoor, which was, luckily there's nature, but not enough. I wanted to meet some people as well, to have, kind of chat, speak to someone. But yeah, it was limiting because of the lockdown.
And so
harder.
Yeah, exactly. Would you be going back to Germany again when you need a next?
So far, hopefully nothing soon, but the leg would need a service in 2 years because this is a microprocessed knee. So it has some kind of a chip which gives it the resistance.
Wow.
It's an advanced leg.
I can't even see it. You've got your legs crossed.
Yes. No, you can't. I'll turn it for you.
Hang on. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
right, okay,
sorry, shit, we have sand in my foot.
Okay, if you're watching this, please watch it.
I was in the video.
Zainab's just rotated her leg for me and then tipped sand all over the sofa.
I can, but
it's fine.
There's so much sand, I guess.
But that's...
I cleaned it very well.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is an incredible...
Yeah, I can turn it 360, but I don't want to risk... I honestly thought my foot was fully clean.
Don't be silly. You're absolutely fine. But as my dad would say, that is an incredible bit of kit.
Yeah, it is. It's really... I appreciate technology.
Wow.
And it makes my life so much easier. Like it's not walking for me. Like this is very important. It's not walking for me, but it has a kind of resistance. So it has more safety if I'm going also down the hill. So it increases the resistance.
Yeah.
And I can change the mode of the resistance through my phone.
No.
Yes.
Hang on, you have an app for your leg?
Yes, I have an app for my leg. So I will show you.
Do you need to take that?
No, I don't
she's
need
just cut someone off on her phone.
Yeah, I did.
Who was it? Probably
No.
Emirates MBD. Probably.
So yeah, exactly. It's a
Yeah,
payment
that's
kind
the
of
bank.
thing. So there is an app for this. Okay, this called Genium X3.
Genium X3?
Which is like the highest.
No way.
And I'm the patient ambassador for this company.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So this is the company that sent me the leg when I was 7 years old.
Are you joking?
And time passed forward, I'm their ambassador.
Oh my God, that's actually made me tear up a little bit.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's actually made me quite emotional.
It was very emotional for me because I signed this contract in 2015. And when I did, I actually didn't tell my parents until that's it, I'm signing the contract. Because it was like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
Like the girl who was there in Iraq, sanctioned, and like we
Yeah.
had to struggle a lot to get me a leg. And time passed forward, I'm their ambassador.
That's unbelievable.
And because of the work I do on social media
Yeah.
and the awareness and everything, they just believed in me. And I was at the beginning of my social media.
Oh,
Yeah.
that has made me so happy.
Yes, yeah.
Right, oh God, I really am getting emotional. Right, stop
Yes.
making me cry. I haven't cried once on this podcast. There's been dead
Sorry.
people. There's been all sorts. Now you've made me cry with a leg. Tell me about your app.
Yeah, so this is an app. So I connect to the leg. And I need to charge this one. I need to charge it every 6 days. But
Okay.
I had a previous leg, which is also microprocessed, which was a day and a half. And sometimes I would forget.
Every day and a half.
Yes. Sometimes I would forget to charge it. And then suddenly I was...
Oh my God, please don't make me laugh. It's not funny.
My leg is stuck. And I'm like, where's the charger? Any cafe, please? What is it? I need to sit here for a while.
Plug it in like a laptop. Are you
Yeah.
joking?
Yeah, I need to charge it overnight.
This is amazing. I'm so sorry, but I love
Yeah.
the fact that you're laughing because
Yeah.
that's such a what bizarre thing.
Actually,
to
if I
even-
would fly out and like my luggage gets stuck somewhere, the first thing I'm like, shit, give me the charger.
Oh my God.
Get all my outfits, all my clothes, but just
Yeah.
give me the charger.
Yeah.
I need to walk.
I was gonna say because then if the charge goes,
It will be back to safety mode, which is like a stock knee. Like it doesn't bend.
so there's no bend
yeah,
in
no
it.
bending. Yeah.
No way.
So I need to charge it. And luckily this lasts for around 6 days. So now I forget. And here it says 60% charge.
Right. Okay.
And I can change the resistance of the knee. So if I'm going cycling. Did you hear the beep?
Yeah.
So now the knee is free knee, which enables me to cycle.
to rotate.
Yes.
No way.
And I can choose more modes depending on the activity that I might do to have a good resistance that's helping me. Still not easy, of course, to do the activity. But nevertheless, at least with such technology, it enables me to have more safety, more choices, more
No
things
way.
to
And
try. And this is waterproof.
yeah, you can actually get in the water.
And that was the first time ever going into the water. This stand is a souvenir.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm so pleased you went in the
Sorry.
water with your sand. Oh, I've actually just seen it.
Yeah.
There is loads of sand on my
Yeah, I'm
sofa. I
sorry.
can't believe it. I cannot believe that. The fact that with the app and everything, like, I'm just kind of blown away by the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just so amazed by it because all of these things are then there to make you lead a normal life.
Yes, as much as possible.
As much as possible. And as you say, to stop the limitations of, because I'm sure you must have done that. Like your friends are doing this and doing, I mean,
Of course,
obviously
yeah.
bearing in mind where we live, if your friends are going out to the desert, for example, did that used to be tough? Because
Of
even
course, with the
walking with
resistance,
legs, it's tough.
Because of the resistance, going down, like, it's much safer. Going up, it's not easy, especially like with the sand.
Yeah.
It's more effort.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Like, at least I'm safe, while I'm taking my steps. Yeah. If I'm going hiking, it's so safe for me to go down the hill
Wow.
compared to my previous legs.
Yeah.
The safety.
That is, that. Give us, what's it called again?
This is Genium X3.
Genium X3.
Yes.
And you are the ambassador.
Yes,
the
I'm
product.
Autobook ambassador.
Oh my God, that's just amazing. And it's, I'm going to say something really rude now, so I have to be really careful. But it's just, you see these influencers and ambassadors and everything, you know, drink this and you'll be really thin. And then you get people like yourself that are just so incredible, so inspirational. And that is the true meaning of a brand ambassador. And I think it's amazing. Don't make me cry anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm
My pleasure.
Like, I genuinely didn't know your story. I knew that you had lost a limb. Didn't know the story behind it. Paul just said, yeah, she'll tell you everything. And I'm like, no, I don't really know how to approach it. But you're just so warm and open. We're going to be working together again soon.
Yes, I can't wait.
Should we do that whole watch this space?
Yes,
Watch this
please.
space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited to be working with you again, because I just think, keep spreading the word. And
Thank you.
as you say, there's still a long way to go, but with people like yourself, and I'm sure other, peers in that have also had similar experiences.
Honestly, like, thank you for having me, because like when I also like went through the podcast and so on, it also was eye-opening, because it also like taught me that I also need to grieve, and not to always just like, I have to get over it and I have to be stronger. Because if you don't take a moment to grieve, this could be reflected maybe years later, and it could affect your mental health or like your energy on the long run. So nowadays, actually, I'm trying my best, like even sometimes to sit and reflect, to grieve and to be stronger. Because it really helps, not to only be stronger, like, but also I need the time to grieve.
There's a difference between being strong and dealing with it along the way.
Correct, yes.
To being strong because you feel you have to, because society tells you you have to, and then almost just sweeping that under the carpet. And you know that, here's an analogy for you, probably not a good one, but you sweep it under the carpet, and then all of a sudden this bump under the carpet, and you're going to trip and you're going to fall. I've just made that up, and that is brilliant.
This is perfect. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, we need to grieve.
Yeah. Well, you can always come back on.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be exciting. And we won't record it, actually. We'll just have a little chat. Before I let you go, did I ask you for an Instagram account or a podcast recommendation?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did?
Yes,
okay, good. Because I've been really rubbish lately and not asking
I
people.
would say the person who really empowered me through her Instagram account, especially when I was like discovering more about what's happening in the West, is Amy Purdy.
Amy Purdy?
Yes.
Okay.
She's an American Paralympian. And before that, like, she's a double below-knee amputee. And it was inspiring for me to watch her TEDx talk.
Yes.
And after that, I learned more about her journey. And she's like, wow, she's been through a lot, health-wise, mentally, with her prosthesis, the things that she has achieved, whether it's in the Paralympics, Dancing with the Stars, the support with her husband and everything. She's been really through a lot of tough things, but at the same time, she's able to beat it over and over again. So I keep on learning from her.
Wow. Yeah. Amy Purdy.
Amy Purdy.
I'll put the link in and make sure you can go and follow her as well, because more role models needed, that's for sure. Zainab, thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie, for having me.
Yay,
big hug.
I love it. And the cat is not here. We've already spoken about cats.
That's her.
Cat chat.
Yes.
I'll speak to you very soon.
Sure.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.